In this lesson, we're going to continue to work with environment in Twinmotion, and we're going to continue with this model that we imported in the previous video. We saw how we can fix and adjust some problems like the materials on the objects and the mapping and the geometry. So we need to make sure that everything works before we move on and continue with our work here in Twinmotion. So that's a really important part that we covered in the previous video. So in this video, we're gonna, again, move forward, see more tools and how we can work also with natural light. First of all, we can click here and adjust the sun, and we can switch from daytime to nighttime just by clicking on the slider. So this top right little eye icon can get us quick access to this time of day setup, which is really important also to study the exposure, the solar exposure. So where the sun is coming from and how it's going to change during the day, during the months, so during the year. And also this is affected by the location and the north of the project, which we're going to see later. So we saw also that we can use the template day, night, and sky. And if we start with these, we have a bunch of settings in the media panel below that are going to help us to create many different types of lighting. So many different combination of light and atmospheric or weather effects, and nighttime, daytime, sunset, dusk, dawn. And also it's going to give us, you can see here, we can adjust with the ambience panel. We can have snow, we can have rain, and so on. So we covered all these different options in the previous video. We end up with some northern lights setting here, real time, and this is animated. So it's the water is animated. We can use this for animation, and we can create videos with this with real-time render, or we can use the path tracer, which is again more realistic, but it's going to be a static render. So if you click in path tracer, this is going to be a quick draft render. It's also going to do the noise, so it's going to get rid of the noise, and it's going to give us more accurate results in terms of lighting, shadows, and so on. Now, another thing we can do when we use Twinmotion is to have the feeling of virtual reality. By clicking here, we can change to pedestrian mode, and we already saw this before, but let's check it now with this model that I've imported. So if I use pedestrian mode, I can move inside and I can basically experiment the architecture. I can see the spaces from a first-person view. And this is going to be really important if you want to test how your architecture is working, how your level is working, your scene. So if I go up here, you can see there are some missing materials on these railings. And also, well, there are some things I need to adjust. The mapping there needs to be adjusted on the pavement. And here I have some flickering because there are some overlapping geometry or surfaces. So this needs to be addressed. And also if I go up here, well, you can see that that's like a glass pavement, and that's not good. And also here I have I don't have the possibility to go up because I have like the railing blocking me. So let's go back in the original model. Again, I'm going to use Blender, but you can use any software that you like 3ds Max, Cinema 4D, Revit, ArchiCAD, depending on if you're working on 3D or if you're working on, you can work with Rhino, with the NURBS, or you can work with building information modeling. Now, the bottom line here is that you need to check if all the materials are in place. So you need to go one by one, use the same material all of the time. So you can just change once the material, and it's going to affect all the parts of the project where that material was applied. So this is, I think, the fastest way we can work with 3D models, and especially architectural models, because you have a lot of elements, and you may want to use the same materials all over, and so you just need to change one to change all of the others. So make sure that everything works here in the 3D. You can see here I fixed the stairs, and I fixed also the material on the various parts like the pavement and so on. So let me just hide everything. So just go little by little one by one. And one thing you can do before you export is make sure that everything is a mesh, or that you apply modifiers. That's really important. So when you finish, you just want to update your project, your architecture, or your 3D model. You just save by overriding the previous file. So just as we did again in the previous video, I'm gonna override so that I just need to update. So I'm gonna export this. Make sure again here in data mesh, the apply modifiers checkbox it's on. Otherwise, all the modifiers will not be recognized by Twinmotion. So by doing that, you're basically like converting everything into a mesh. And that's what you want to do. Whether you're coming from Rhino and you're working with NURBS, or you're working with generative design in any other software, and so on. So going back here in Twinmotion, now in this scene here, I've also changed the materials. I got the materials from the Twinmotion libraries because I think they look better and they are like more optimized for Twinmotion. So I think it's better to change them. So when I want to update, if I make some changes, I just need to click on this little button right here and update. So this is how quick it is, even though we are not using dynamic link, which is even faster, but that's going to be fine. Okay, so you can see, again, this is another version. I've changed some materials, some wood, some concrete, some glass to make, some tests, some experiments on the material. So this is the beauty of let me get back here to pedestrian mode and see if I've fixed everything. So you can see now everything looks fine. I still have some problems with mapping, which I'm gonna solve here directly in Twinmotion, just as we did in the previous video, but the stairs are looking fine. There you go. So there you go. This is the floor, the roof floor, and it's looking fine. So everything it's better now. Now, by clicking on these three dots, you also have some other options when you re-import, when you use imported model. So one thing you can do is select all the imported objects, because this is a single file, but it contains many different separated elements. And these are separated by materials. Remember, when you import, you can choose that option, and I think that's the best. And here, if we go to file settings, you can see we are using collapse by material. If you want, you can do keep hierarchy, but that's gonna keep like all the separated elements from the original file. And I think it's a little bit, better to use collapse by material. And then you have some extra settings there. Make sure you leave them on, because they're gonna help you to have better results when you import. So you can reset the transform of the selection, or the material, or the properties, which means that, for example, if I change this here, which is the base of my project, so if I do like reset, the material is gonna bring back the original material from the original imported file. So you can retrieve the original materials from Blender or whatever other software you're using. If I change the position by moving the object and I do reset transform, it's going to reset the transform data you can see here in the original state. So basically, these are reset options on the selection. So it means that you select something and you're going to reset that particular thing that you selected, given that it's separated from the rest of the project. Or you can re-import deleted objects. So if I accidentally delete one object like this, or on purpose, and I want to get it back, I can click here and then re-import the deleted elements. And well, now it kind of messed up the mapping again, but just to recap, to fix the mapping, just make sure you are on box mapping on the top there, and then just apply a material here from Twinmotion and just reset the original material, and that's going to be fine. You can see it's showing you now the material fine. Now we're going to talk about location. So how you can locate your project, and that's again going to affect the lighting and the natural lights especially. But I also want to show you here in populate tab how you can use urban. This one here, it's really helpful when you need to create like buildings. You want to simulate like a terrain, but not only the landscape or natural things, but also roads, streets, and buildings. So if I search for a particular area, so I typed Rome, I want to search